Edward Teach built his legend on fear alone. He didn't need to kill that many people. He just needed to look like he would. He'd tie lit fuses into his beard so smoke curled around his face during a fight. Ships saw him coming and just surrendered. Why die for cargo when the man approaching looks like he walked out of hell? But by November 1718, the governor of Virginia had had enough. He sent Lieutenant Robert Maynard with 2 small ships to hunt him down off Ocracoke Island, North Carolina. Blackbeard had maybe 20 men left. Maynard had more, but his ships were smaller, lighter, built to chase through shallow water. Blackbeard's sloop ran aground briefly, and Maynard's men ran aground too, trying to close the gap. For a moment, it looked like a standoff. Then Blackbeard did what he always did. He bluffed. He shouted over that he'd give no quarter, expecting Maynard's crew to panic the way merchant ships always had. This time, it didn't work. Maynard hid most of his men below deck, making his ship look emptier than it was. When Blackbeard's men boarded, thinking they'd won, Maynard's hidden crew came up swinging. The fight that followed was brutal and close. Blackbeard and Maynard exchanged pistol fire. Then it became swords. Witnesses said Blackbeard kept fighting even after being shot multiple times and cut again and again. He didn't stop. He didn't even seem to notice the damage being done to his own body. When it was finally over, an examination reportedly counted 5 gunshot wounds and over 20 cuts on his body. Captain Kidd, William Kidd. William Kidd was originally hired as a privateer, meaning he had government backing to attack enemy ships. The problem was the line between privateer and pirate was thin, and Kidd crossed it. He attacked a ship he shouldn't have, and his powerful backers in London suddenly needed him to disappear so it didn't reflect on them. Kidd actually believed he could clear his name. He sailed to Boston voluntarily, expecting a fair hearing. Instead, he was arrested, shipped to England, and put on trial as a political scapegoat more than a genuine criminal investigation. The trial barely mattered. The verdict was decided before it started. In May 1701, Kidd was hanged at Execution Dock in London. Here's the detail that makes it grim instead of just sad. The rope snapped on the first attempt. He fell to the ground, still alive in front of the crowd. They strung him up a second time, and that time it worked. His body was then covered in tar and hung in a cage over the Thames for years as a warning to other sailors tempted by piracy. Anne Bonny and Mary Read, 2 of the most famous women in pirate history, and their endings could not be more different from each other or from the men around them. Both sailed with Calico Jack Rackham. Both were captured with him in 1720 off Jamaica. Both were sentenced to hang. Mary Read never got the chance to face the noose. She died in prison from a fever while pregnant. No dramatic last stand, just an illness that took her before the law could. Anne Bonny's fate is murkier, and that's almost more interesting. There's no solid death record. Some historians think her father, a wealthy merchant, paid for her release. Others think she returned to a quiet life under a different name. The most popular theory is that she lived for decades after the trial, married, had children, and died an old woman in South Carolina around 1782, 60 years after the world assumed pirates like her always ended on a rope. Bartholomew Roberts, Black Bart. If you want the single most successful pirate in history by ships captured, it's Roberts. He took somewhere between 400 and 470 vessels during his career, which dwarfs basically everyone else on this list combined. His end came in February 1722 off the coast of West Africa in a battle with a British warship called HMS Swallow. Roberts reportedly dressed in his finest clothes that day, as he always did before a fight, wanting to face death looking sharp rather than ragged. During the battle, he was struck in the throat by grapeshot and died almost instantly while still standing at the helm. His crew, following his own standing orders, threw his body into the sea immediately so the British couldn't capture or display it. No trophy, no cage, no public hanging. The ocean just took him. In a strange way, that's the most pirate ending on this entire list. No trial, no mercy speech, no long decline, just gone, mid-fight. Exactly where he always said he wanted to be. Henry Morgan terrorized the Caribbean for years, sacking cities, raiding Spanish ships, building a reputation as brutal as anyone on this list. But Morgan had something most pirates didn't: timing and connections. England eventually decided his particular brand of violence was useful to them, especially against Spain. So instead of hanging him, they knighted him. Sir Henry Morgan became Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica. He spent his later years wealthy, respected, drinking heavily, and dying in 1688 of what was likely liver disease in his own bed, an old man surrounded by the comfort his raids had paid for. No noose, no cage, no grape shot to the throat. Just years of good living catching up with his body in the end. So look at the spread here. Blackbeard fought until his body simply couldn't anymore. Kidd was hanged twice because the rope failed once. Mary Read died of fever in a cell. Anne Bonny might have just walked away and lived a long, quiet life. Rackham ended up in a cage by the water. Bonnet begged for mercy and got none. Roberts died standing, dressed sharp, gone in an instant. And Morgan somehow ended up a knight who drank himself into an early grave surrounded by riches. There's no single pirate death. There's no clean pattern that says this is how it always goes for men like this.